Hi, I'm Shawn Estep. I'm principal attorney with the Estep Law Firm. We help people protect their lifestyle, their dignity, and preserve their legacy. Today I'm going to do something, it's going to be a holiday dessert. It's going to be an apple cranberry crisp, and I love this because it brings all the elements of the holidays together. Apples, cranberries, cinnamon, orange. These are all things I remember from my childhood. My mom used to take cranberries and crunch them up and make them into cranberry sauce, and she'd always put some orange zest in it, so I always remember that. That's just something from my childhood that I just loved. So today we're just going to go ahead and put all those elements together into a nice warm crisp. If you make it warm, you bring it out, you could put vanilla ice cream on it, cinnamon ice cream, whatever you really want to do. And the wonderful thing about this is you can vary the recipe kind of any way you want to. I'm going to use cinnamon in mine. You could use allspice. You could use ginger. You can use pumpkin spice. We know this time of year, people start getting everything in pumpkin spice. You know, pumpkin spice bread, pumpkin spice lattes. So that's something you can use, again, whatever you want. And you can use whatever apples you want. I tend to like to have things that are a little bit more tart. So what I'm going to use today are 2 Granny Smiths and 2 Pink Ladies. So I just want to talk a little bit about the apples. We have Granny Smiths, which are going to be the tartar of the 2 that I'm using. The second one is going to be the Pink Lady. It's going to be a little bit sweeter. So you kind of have those 2 flavors mixing together with the tart cranberries and the wonderful sugar, and it's just going to make a wonderful flavor combination with the orange. All right, so that's what we're going to start with, is doing that. This is what it looks like when we're done. It's going to be really yummy. And then after we're done, we're going to eat it up. So that's all I have for an introduction. We're going to go ahead and start with the topping. Then we're going to move to the filling. Then we're going to put it into the dish, and then we're going to stick it in the oven, and about 40 minutes later, it's going to be ready to go. So off we go with the topping. All right, now we're just going to go ahead and do the topping. That's probably the easiest part of this, but none of this is really hard. I like this recipe because, as I said, it's simple. There's not a lot of moving parts, and you can do whatever you want with it. And you know, one of the things about the holidays is you see all your family, you see your kids, your grandkids. I have 7 grandkids. It's really awesome. I have 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son. And it's just wonderful to have everybody come in and talk to each other. Some talk more than others. So just kind of have that conversation with people. And you can do it over dinners and then desserts. That's why I like this so much, is because you get a chance to really kind of combine my favorite things, which are eating, with conversations with your family. So we're going to start with that topping, like I said. And so we're going to start with a cup of oatmeal. So we're going to start with this, which is our cup. I'm going to put a cup of oatmeal in here. And just recognize that sometimes there's a little bit more than you need. It's okay, because this is really a great recipe and the stuff is good on its own. All right, we're going to go ahead then and we're going to use 1/3 of a cup of flour. And the flour is there just to help combine with the oatmeal and make sure that it turns into sort of a nice crumble. I did this before and it didn't crumble very much. What it ended up doing was just turning into sort of a crust. As you saw with that one, there was more crumble than crust. So that's what I'm looking for, is a crumbliness, okay? So we're also going to put 1/2 cup of these wonderful pecans I've already crunched up. And you can use pretty much any nut you like. You can use sliced almonds. You can use crunched up walnuts. I like pecans, so we're going to try those today with this recipe. Those have almonds in them. Those are going to be pecans. And again, I think pecans are just kind of, this time of year, they're kind of a festive nut. So that's why I like using those. And then we're going to use a little bit of cinnamon. And you know, there are recipes that say how much you use. The way I cook, I just like to smell it. And now if I smell it, I know that's enough. Okay. And I'm going to use my hands because When we put our brown sugar in here, which we're going to use, looks like about half a cup, and it's a half a cup of packed brown sugar. It's always fun trying to open these up. So here's our half a cup. We're going to go ahead and get our half a cup of packed brown sugar and get that in there. And I'm making a nice big mess. That's normal in a kitchen, especially in my kitchen. I'm really good at it. And again, we're going to use our hands to kind of mix this up a little bit. As your brown sugar gets older, sometimes it's going to get a little clumpy. So we're going to want to make sure that we get all the clumps out. Okay? Just makes for a nice, smoother mess. Next, what we're going to do, and I'm going to take my wedding ring off when I do this, we're going to put the butter in there. And what you're going to do is you're going to have this at room temperature, and then just take a couple of slices, and we're going to use this whole quarter stick, or this whole stick, not a quarter stick, we're going to use the whole stick. But again, using our fingers, we're going to incorporate the butter into our mixture, into our dry mixture. And again, what we're looking for is to make this into just a crumbly kind of thing. Okay? And as we get there, I'll show you what it's going to look like. We just need to keep going at it. I think I should have just cut this beforehand. Here we go. There's a couple more. If you got kids or grandkids and they like getting their hands messy, they might be able to help you with this part. Just recognize you're going to have a bigger mess to clean up. I know my grandkids like to cook with their parents. Sometimes we'll have those little cooking kits, like a cookie, I think we actually did this year. I think we got a, what is it? Chocolate chip cookie one. You know, it comes with the actual skillet. You just mix it up and the kids put it in the oven. I think we got those this year. Those are a lot of fun for the kids. So, you know, cooking can be something where everybody gets involved. And again, you get a chance to talk to your family and have conversations about them and what's happening in their lives. And that's part of what we do as estate planning attorneys. We try to make sure we understand the family, who they are, what's happening with them, what can we do to help them, again, try to preserve their legacy. You know, their legacy is their children, their grandchildren. I realized that the other day. Most of my grandkids were over at the house. We were having a stay over. They love staying over with Grandma and Grandpa. And just having little kids around, running around, having fun with each other, that's just, to me, one of the best parts of our legacy. It's not particularly the money. It's again, that personal side. And as estate planning attorneys, our goal is to help you with those personal things, as well as the side where we have the financial things that we're trying to preserve. Either from taxes, we can do that. Also, if you have a catastrophic healthcare event you weren't expecting, or if you need nursing home care, we can actually help preserve your assets, preserve that legacy. We can also help you preserve some level of dignity so you don't spend everything. So those are all things we try to do as attorneys to make sure you and your family is protected. All right, that's our crumble. Now let's take a quick look at it. Doesn't that look nice and crumbly? That is what a crumble should look like. All right, this is the filling part. This is kind of, fun part. Getting your hands in and mixing up the topping was pretty fun. But this is fun too because, just think about this. You're trying to cut these apples, and these have all been washed. You're trying to get the peeling off of these. And for me, kind of the game is see how much of the peel I can get off all at one time without losing it. And what I do is I start at the very top of the apple. Our goal here is to try and get as much of the peeling off as possible because when we cut this, we don't want any peeling on our apple. It just kind of doesn't taste as good. You don't really want that peeling in your crisp. Yep, there we go. Made it almost all the way. And when you're looking for apples, make sure that the apples are crisp. They're not that's a good way to put it. Just they don't have brown spots on them or not too many brown spots. You can always take brown spots out. That's a little bit of a brown spot. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But again, just make sure that they're firm, not mushy, because that's what you want. You want a nice crisp apple. And then we're going to do the Granny Smith. I want you to see what the difference is between the Granny Smith and the Pink Lady is in terms of their color. Kind of gives you an idea as to how much of a tart difference there is between them. All in one shot. Let's see if I got it. And we're done. Look at that. So you can tell a little bit of a difference there. The Granny Smith is real green, and then the Pink Lady is kind of pink. And you really want that. That kind of tells you that the Granny Smith is just a little bit tart. Let's go ahead and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how to cut the apple. I'll do the rest of the apples here in a few minutes, but I want to show you how to cut the apple. I like my apple chunks to be kind of thin sliced. And one way to do this that's really super simple and to get the core out of there is just to cut straight through, leave about, say, a ½ inch from the center of the apple. And that way you're kind of making a nice clean cut. You don't get much of the core. You don't waste a lot of apple. And you can also make really straight cuts, make really nice wedges. So just cut them thin. I make them about that thin. Just keep cutting them. And once you're done cutting, toss them in your bowl with your cranberries. And you don't have to be exact, as long as they're pretty close, because we want them all to cook about the same. If not, maybe get an apple that's a little bit crunchy in there. That may not be what you want. Of course, if you like your apples a little crunchier, maybe you make them a little bit bigger. Again, this recipe is one that you can really pretty much do whatever you want with it. You can change the type of apples, you can change the type of things that you use in the crisp itself. You can leave the orange out. You can put as much orange in if you want, however much you want. Change the spices. Just go to town with it. It's infinitely customizable. All right, now we're going to zest the orange. This is one of those things you can leave out if you want to, but I really do like that orange flavor that goes along with apples and cinnamon. And again, you know, as I said earlier, this is ultimately customizable to whatever you want to do. If you want to use lemon, that's fine. I think a lot of crisps or crumbles, I've used both of those today when making this. They're interchangeable in my mind. I think some people think that if you do a crumble, it's with oats, and if it's a crisp, it's without oats. I'm not sure. I just know what I like, and that's why I make this. I really love this recipe because it's, again, so easy and it's so tasty and so easy to just do whatever you want with it. In fact, you saw me looking down at my notes, at my ingredients, because this is only my third one. So I've really just taken recipes I found online, found things that I like to do, the things I like to taste, and put them together into my own recipe. So as I do this, I'll change it again probably 1 or 2 more times at least, just because. I might want to do something a little bit different. Or if someone that I like decides they don't like something that I've got in here, I can adjust it so I take that out. One of my daughters does not like nuts, so I might not put nuts in one simply because she doesn't like them, and that's okay with me. We'll just do what we got to do. All right, so that's our orange zest. We're just going to go ahead and dump that right into our bowl. All of the orange zest. There's quite a bit in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this orange in half. And I'm going to squeeze some of the juice into the bowl. And of course the juice is going to go everywhere except the bowl, but we're going to get as much of the juice in as we can. And this helps with the flavoring. And this is a sweeter part of the orange, is the juice. So we want to go ahead and make sure we get a little bit of the juice in there to get some of the orange flavor and also some of the sweetness from the orange. Okay, good. That's the fun part. Next, we're going to go ahead and put in some sugar. And by some sugar, I mean a cup and a half. So this is going to be really, really nice and sweet. I tried this with less sugar, and it wasn't quite as sweet. We didn't have quite as much flavor. So I want to go ahead and use the full cup and a half of sugar. All right. There's 3/4 of a cup. And there is a cup and a half. And then a grain or two extra. Now we're going to want this to congeal a little bit. We want this to actually set so that it kind of has a little bit of a not juiciness to it. It shouldn't be too juicy. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some cornstarch to give this a little bit of body once it's had a chance to cool and set. A little bit like that one that I showed at the beginning. Now, of course, as with the topping, I'm going to go ahead and take my ring off, and I'm going to go ahead and do this by hand. And again, partly that's because it's easier to do this and make sure you don't make as much of a mess. So I'm going to start with my hands. Also, again, if you've got kids, they like using their hands. You also want to make sure you get that orange peel, that zest, scattered all through the fruits. I'll tell you what, this is already starting to smell very Christmassy. And of course, remember, you're going to put some sort of a seasoning in here. You're going to maybe put that allspice or pumpkin spice. I'm going to go ahead and put some more cinnamon in here. I know I've got some on the topping, but I want some of the cinnamon on the apples. And again, I don't measure. I just go by what looks right and what smells right. So that should be enough. And if it doesn't smell right, if it doesn't look right, I'll put some more in. Okay, that smells really good. You can smell the apple, you can smell the cinnamon, you can smell some of that orange. So it's really starting to look amazing. Check that out. That's the way it should look. So that's your filling, all right? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this into our baking dish and then pop it in the oven. Hi, I'm Shawn Estep with the Estep Law Firm. We help people protect themselves. We help them protect their lifestyle, their dignity, and their legacy. And I just got done with my dessert that I did for the Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's a apple cranberry crumble. And you notice when I did that I said you could do pretty much anything you want with it. You can add cinnamon, you can add allspice, pumpkin spice. You can use whatever nuts you want to. So you can really customize it any way that you want to. In my office as an estate planner, we do the same thing. We start with the basics. We have the tools that we use. We use trusts, powers of attorney, and wills. And we ask you what you want. What are the things that are important to you? And that's how we really build up your estate plan. You could go into somebody's office and just get the tools. That's okay. A lot of people do that. But if you're more concerned about your family and how you want to be taken care of, how you want to make sure that your legacy passes on to the next generation, that you're protected and make sure that your lifestyle stays the same, that you have dignity, especially as you get older. we can help with that. And again, it's not cookie cutter. We don't do the same thing for everybody because everybody's different. So let us know if you want to come in and talk to us about your situation, who you are. Teach us about you, and we'll teach you what you need to know about how to accomplish those goals. We also have education afterwards. We continue to educate our families and their financial and healthcare decision makers on what their role is. Again, I'm Shawn Estep with the Estep Law Firm. Plan now for your peace of mind. All right, this is where we're going to go ahead and put this into the pan. Now, I decided that while I was sort of getting prepared to put this stuff into the baking dish, that I didn't smell enough cinnamon. And as I said, I go by smell and sight. Now it smells like there's enough cinnamon in here. I added just a little bit more. All right, there we go. So as you can see, I've got two different things I'm got prepared here. The first one is this big baking dish. We're going to go ahead and use this. This is a 2.5 quart, and it should hold everything. I'm going to try and see if I can reserve just a little bit, because what I like to do is have just a little bit left over, and I can put it into a little ramekin and try it out later. So if I'm going to feed this to family, I want to make sure that what I put in tasted good. So it's going to be my little test of what I got right. So I left a little bit like that. I'm going to put that into the ramekin, try to fill it up. Okay. And just recognize you can get these pretty much up to the top, because at the end of the day, what these are going to do is they're going to shrink a little bit after we've cooked them. So we'll have just a little bit of shrinkage. And see, there's some sugar and cinnamon and orange juice. Let's get all of that into our cooking dish, because that's all good stuff. All right. Look at that. That looks yummy. It looks like it's going to be very festive, which is really an awesome thing. Now we're going to start putting in the crumble part. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. You can do it by hand. You can do it using a spatula. But as you've, I'm sure, discovered by now, I like using my hands. So what I'll do is I'll do the test one first, just to make sure everything's crumbling properly. And it looks like it is. And don't worry if you get some of these that kind of end up down here. They'll cook up really nicely, and they're going to be a nice cinnamony, oaty thing. So let me talk a little bit about the topping. When you pick your oatmeal, make sure you get some that's quick cook. Make sure it cooks like in about a minute or something. It's called old-fashioned rolled oats, but make sure you don't get the stuff that's really, really good for you. Usually that stuff is thicker. It doesn't cook up as much, because you want this to cook. You want this to turn into a topping. If you don't, what it'll do is you'll just have oatmeal that's been sitting there getting warm. It doesn't cook at all. So that's why I use this quick cook. And I think you probably saw that on the label when I was putting this together. Look at that. You want to make sure as much of that fruit is covered as possible. And again, you know, I call this a crumble, I'll call it a crisp, but what it for sure is really, really yummy. And we want to go ahead and use all of the topping if we can. There might be an apple or a cranberry peeking out. That's okay. Again, that gives it that festive look. So what you may want to do is clean up some of the oatmeal that's on the side. Oh, there's a nice little cranberry. I think I might put that in the middle and see how that comes out. That should look really nice. So that's what it looks like before you put it into the oven. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick it in the oven right now. Just follow me over to the oven. Our oven's at 375 degrees. We're going to put it in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes. What you're going to do is you're going to check this in about 30 minutes to see how it looks. What you're going to see is you're going to see cranberries and apples bubbling. If you see that, it's pretty close to done. So just take a look and see what the crust looks like. Make sure, again, that there's bubbling. Even if you've covered most of the apples and cranberries, you'll see some bubbling. That's why I put it on a cookie sheet with a little bit of paper. I want to make sure that it's not going to spill over because, again, it will bubble. So make sure you do that. Well, that's all we've got for today. We're cooking for 30 to 40 minutes. But again, I appreciate you listening, and thank you for listening to Culinary Adventures with Shawn. Our next episode is coming up. I can't wait to see you all.